Hey folks, Johnny Yarbrough here, Appulate's MGA and Carrier Specialist. Doing another quick video for you. Just wanted to go through our top 10 list of what agents are looking for from their MGAs and carriers. Now, where did I get this list? We do an annual survey every year of our agents. We've got about 280,000 of them in our system. So it's really cool to be able to do these annual surveys to learn about what these agents are trying to do. What kind of lines of business are they writing? What classes of business are they trying to write? And this one is my favorite, which is just simply, what do you want from your markets? And the response was very big, and I was able to isolate the last few years worth of data into a top 10 list, which I'm going to share with you today. So we'll start with the number 10, which is ACORD data intake. So no manual entry. What this is something that a lot of companies are starting to do over the last several years. Appulate's actually been doing it for about 16 years. And what it is the ability to parse forms, extract data from forms, convert that data, and ingest it into whatever system that those agents are going to land in. So from the agent's perspective, they can hit a button, all the data off of their ACORD forms land inside that portal, and they're not having to manually enter any kind of data. This is awesome from the agent's perspective. It's equally just as awesome from an underwriter's perspective if that agent emails you an ACORD form and you're able to intake that and ingest that data. So I'm really glad that ended up on number 10. This brings me to number 9, though. This is kind of a little bit different, which is personal touch and service. Although agents are looking for faster ways to quote and do business, they still want you to be able to provide a decent level of personal touch and service. I actually just talked to somebody the other day. We were talking about all this really cool technology, and his worry is that some of the executives of his company might not be interested in this because what about all the jobs you might lose from automating a lot of these tasks? This doesn't actually seem to be much of a problem. A lot of these companies that are automating a lot of these tasks like number 10, no manual entry, and eliminating all of this is so much better, because instead of having a CSR who's just a data entry person, those folks can be trained to do other things, especially servicing the client. So I'm really glad that it ended up in number 9, and I think that's a very important one on this list. Number 8 is shorter questionnaires. No brainer. This is obviously what a lot of agents want. And I think this is because they've been completely over inundated with forms and supplementals and proprietary type of intake documents that have to be completed prior to a submission, that frankly, they're not even really sure how much of those questions and how much of that information has to be filled out. So typically, from a carrier's perspective, it doesn't seem like a big deal to say, hey, we need an ACORD or this specific form. But if they're having to do that for so many other companies, it puts the agent at a disadvantage where they're having to complete so much information so many different times. So companies like Appulate and other distribution type technology companies that have built out these really awesome portals are doing a fantastic job creating dynamic questionnaires where the agent goes in and they see exactly what's required. As they enter information, the questionnaire changes, it adapts, it tells them if this is something that meets their appetite. There's this huge amount of transparency, and that saves a tremendous amount of time for the agent. So instead of having to fill out a form with 100 different questions on it, now they know exactly what perhaps 12 questions they have to be answered in order to get a quote for their insured. So number 7, and this is probably my favorite one on the list, which is quote on a single platform. I say it's my favorite because first of all, I'm really happy it ended up in the top 10, let alone number 7 on the list. And this is because I've been making a case for this for a while. I think one of the interesting things about ACORD forms is it seems to be a very American thing. I've talked to companies outside of the United States, and they don't have consistent ways to receive data at all. They'll receive insured submissions on PDF forms, on Excel sheets, on PowerPoint slides, all kind of crazy things. So luckily we've had ACORD and other forms like that we've developed to try to create some kind of standardization. However, what this is saying is, we want something a little bit more like Expedia, for example, where you go to a site, you see all of the companies that you're trying to work with. From an agent's perspective, they can submit to all of the markets that they want to get a quote from and see exactly what kind of information they need all in one location. So this is really big. We're seeing a lot of companies start to pop up that are doing this. This is something Appulate, again, has been doing for a little while, and one of my favorite things. I think it's so important to create a consistent way to do business, because what you end up getting is agents who are used to the same process each time. They know exactly how it operates, and regardless of the market, they know exactly where to find this information. It's kind of like having a shopping mall in your town, and you know where the stores are in the mall. So when you get there and you want shoes, you know exactly where to go. Same kind of principle applies here. We can use technology, connect to various APIs from these different carriers, and give the agents the best experience possible all in one location. I'll stop there because I feel like I could talk about this all day. The next one on the list, number 6, is automated underwriting. This kind of goes back to what I was just saying about including APIs and better questionnaires and that kind of thing. There's no need to go back and forth with an underwriter anymore, really. There may be situations where that does apply based on maybe the data that they put in, but overall, if 80% of what you're doing could be consolidated to a digital form that adapts to the data that they put in, so that when an underwriter receives that submission, they have everything they need for a quote, or even that technology is able to produce an instant quote, that is vastly more effective and so much better from the agent's perspective. I'm not surprised that that's number 6. Number 5 is online questionnaire. Again, another no-brainer. This kind of goes in line with everything here. Agents are sick of forms. They're done with it. They want an ability to move data from their systems directly into whatever portal they're having to fill out, either for that carrier or a consistent portal like Appulate, where they can interact with all their markets. But they want to do this online, and I think we've seen a surge of that over the last year because, of course, people are working from home a lot more. Number 4 is better commission. I am not surprised that that is in the top 4. People like to get paid. Not much to have to say about that. Of course, this kind of goes back to better service for your agents. If you can adopt better practices in your company and increase your margins, put a little bit more money back into how much you're paying your agents. I know we all want to buy that next nice boat, but it's so important to take care of these agents who are the ones who are feeding you all of this business. Number 3 is fast quote turnaround. Not surprising at all that this is on the list either. People want quotes quickly. I've talked to a lot of wholesalers and MGAs who are concerned about the resources they have and not being able to produce instant quotes right then and there, but just at least want to create a questionnaire where they can gather the information, pull it into their back-end system, produce a quote in maybe 24 to 48 hours, and agents love that. It's so much better than having to go back and forth for days or weeks at a time trying to gather information. If you can completely eliminate all of the data entry and automate the underwriting process, there's no reason you shouldn't be able to produce quotes very fast and give them better turnaround on that. Number 2 is competitive rates and quotes. So not only do they want them fast, they want them competitive. I think a lot of people are starting to look at comparative raters. Wholesalers, especially the ones that I work with Appulate, love to be able to show all of the carriers, markets, and programs that they're working with, giving the agents even more transparency during the quoting and submission process, so that they can compare those rates, hitting as many APIs as we can to pull in instant rating indications, instant underwriting and appetite guide information. So this is so important to be able to create this wonderful user experience, but also be able to provide competitive rates and quotes. And number 1 is instant quoting capabilities. By far, this was one of the top answers for this survey question. And again, no surprise here. People want good service, they want it fast, and if you can, they want it instantaneous. APIs have been what everybody's been talking about. It's what I just did my last video on. I'm going to be doing a webinar on it in a couple weeks or so. So if you aren't familiar with that, if you're not familiar with how you can update and adapt your technology to provide instant rating or instant quoting capabilities, you need to start looking into that, or start looking into markets that can provide that and then offer you that technology. It's out there, and it's becoming a lot more prevalent. So this is what agents are looking for. This was a wonderful top 10 list. Other items that didn't make it onto this top 10 list were binding ability, e-sign, digitized supplementals. That kind of goes back to one of the top 10 digital forms. High carrier rating, specialty or niche programs, risk management and mitigation, data validation, and then alternative solutions like HR, payroll, and PEO. So this was my list. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Thank you so much. Feel free to subscribe, comment, let me know what your thoughts are, and next year, let's see how these numbers change. Have a good weekend.